evening to everybody. Good morning, good night, depending on what time of the day you are actually tuning in and hearing this information. So I just wanted to quickly touch base with you because I've been rocking Bantu knots all week long. All right, definitely use whenever. And my point is this: if you have not tried Bantu knots already, make sure it is like one of your hairstyle staples. And it's very, very important that you actually use this style. And I'm going to tell you 3 reasons why you should actually incorporate in your hair care regimen, in your styling regimen. And I hope this information is helpful to you and you can go ahead and use them as well. All right, so why am I talking about Bantu knots right now? Well, I kind of had an idea of, wanting to do this style all week long, and I rocked it all week long as is. So every morning, every day, every other day, I would, refresh each of them, right? So this is the length of my hair, and in the morning when I get up, I would do my knots over. Now, some of you don't like sleeping on knots, and I can understand why, because sometimes people actually do Bantu knots a little too tight. And when you do Bantu knots too tight, it is not a comfortable style. So I understand if you've tried Bantu knots before and you don't like them. I understand that. But you know what you can do, and I have been doing as well, is if you do use Bantu knots and you don't like sleeping on tight hairstyles, you can always just open the knot, cover your hair, and go to sleep. So when you wake up the next day, if you want to rock the Bantu style itself, you can wake up the next day, refresh your edges, refresh the actual thing, and then you put the knot back in its place. Now, I know some of you are a little old school, right? Some of you are old school, and I remember when I wore Bantu knots in high school, right? And I had on my Bantu knots in high school, and my teacher said, why you come outside with your rollers on? Because for her, Bantu knots, what we call Chinese bump, onions, pig titty. Type in the chat what you call Bantu knots, because I wanna know, right? For my teacher, her Bantu knots meant that this is the style you would wear when you're about to go out the next day. So you would style your hair in Bantu knots, and then you would unravel it to go about your business, because that is like one of the easiest way that you can actually create curls, right? So now, if you don't like Bantu knots, I respect your choices, and that's fine if you don't like them, right? But if you're open and if you are interested, you can use Bantu knots towards your benefit. So like I said, I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been wearing Bantu knots for kaka. Oh my goodness. In French, you call it kaka cabrit. Is there a meaning for that? Ophelia, why do you call it kaka? Kaka mean cuckoo? Why do you call it that? Let me know, because we always say that it's not Bantu. I heard a lot of people calling it Bantu, which is why I started using the word Bantu as well. But we literally would say this is like pig titi, it's like a pig titi. So that's what we call it. And then I heard people say things like they call it onions. Goat cuckoo? No, that is just wrong. That is so wrong. That's what they call the Bantu? That's wrong on every single level. I mean, it should be a little bit more positive, seeing that it is our hair, right? But in the Caribbean, we do call it pig titty. Exactly. We call it pig titty. I've heard people say that they call it, like I said, onions. Yeah, those are the ones I've heard. Pig titty, onions, Bantu knots, right? And not everybody likes them. I respect that. Not everybody likes them. And I've seen people actually do their knots in different ways, right? For me, I always do my knots starting with a 2-strand twist. That's how I do mine. And it works for me that way, right? I've seen people do Bantu knots. Oh. So they call the Bantu knot kaka kabri, meaning goat poo. Okay then. I hope they don't still use that, because I don't like the sound of that. I don't want anybody knowing that the name of my hairstyle is goat poo. That's not right. That's not right at all. I think we should use names for hairstyles that are actually very empowering, and that's my opinion, right? So, like I said, I would put my Bantu in two strand twists, right? I would do mine in a two strand twist, and I saw some of you saw my stories, my Instagram story, my Facebook story. The reason why I do this, for me, I get even more definition when I do a two strand. You see that? I didn't wet this when I did it the first time. I just basically used leave-in conditioner and some oil. Yesterday I used some gel on the edges, and that is how I decided to open my Bantu knots today. But I said, let me come on here, let's talk about some Bantu knots. Let me tell you a little bit about what I know about it and how you can actually utilize it in your styling regimen, right? So I am taking my hair down because, as you know, it needs to wash. Okay, it needs washing. So I do my Bantu knots in two strand. How do I know that kakakabri in so now yes, so now I know what it means in French. I hope nobody use that anymore, that is degrading. That's not even right. That on so many levels. How can you tell somebody that they have goat poo poo on their head? No, I think we need to empower ourselves and use much more empowering words for our hairstyles. So I would just, rotate. I'll rotate it, right? I would rotate it. Some people, when they do their Bantu knots, is very long and narrow. This is how I would do mine, and it stays, right? So I would do the two strand twist, and then I would roll it up after a while. Okay, so that is how I do my Bantu knot. I've seen people, they do their Bantu knots by first they would have the actual hair out. It would be out already. It would be out already, right? And they would just take the hair and they would start twisting and twisting and twisting and twisting, twisting and twisting until, they keep twisting and until they actually form the Bantu. That's how I see some people do it. For me, whenever I do this, my Bantus are always too tight. They end up being very tight, and I don't like it, right? So some of the things that I've been able to do to help alleviate the tightness is I would, just like how you turn the dial for the volume, I would turn the dial to the Bantu and it's loosened, right? And you notice that it stays. All of these, there's no rubber. I don't use rubber bands. Okay, I don't use any rubber bands on my hair, and this is a week old. So this is not fresh Bantu. This has been on my head all week and it's about to come out. But like I said, I wanted to come on and share some information about Bantu with you, at least from my experience. And I think it should be a part of everybody's regimen, even if you don't go outside with the style in your head. Now, the first reason why I think that Bantu knots should be a part of your regimen, and you can choose to have it as part of your regimen, is that it makes your hair much more manageable, right? Because your hair is put away, you get to manage it better. And what do I mean by that? Number one, and I'll be unscrewing this all the time because it's about to come out, but when you have your hair in Bantu knots, right, you don't have to worry about detangling your hair. It's already detangled. And because the hair is in sections, if you choose to, take your hair to a different style, it is not a lot of harassment on your head, right? It's not a lot of open hair that you need to be moving around. And when you have it in Bantu knots, it could be this size, it can be smaller, and it could be even much bigger than this. It doesn't have to be this particular size, right? You can have bigger Bantu knots in your head. I've seen bigger ones, right? I've seen smaller ones. So you get to have more manageability on your hair when you use Bantu knots, okay? So that's one reason, number one, for actually using Bantu knots as a styling regimen. Now, the second thing that I would like to say is that when you have Bantu knots, even if it's on your hair or if it's on braided hair, if it's on your hair or if it's on braided hair, it's the same thing. You have versatility whenever you are maneuvering your hair in Bantu knots. So you see what I just now did, and I sent this style in the stories earlier this week, where you have Bantu on your head. One option is to actually have entire hair bantued. That's one option, right? Another option is to get a little bit creative and say, you know what? I want to change my look up a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop some bangs in the front. That's a possibility. So you can have you could take this hairstyle and you could you could spend an entire month with your hair in Bantu. An entire month. Why? Because again, it gives you the versatility with hairstyles. A lot of versatility. I've seen people wear Bantu knots, right, with bangs. So you could open this up like this, or you can go even further and open up the hair even more, right? So you have more volume, you maneuver your hair, you do what you want with it. So you can use Bantu with bangs, right? I've also seen people do Bantu knots with mohawk, which means that now you put this back up in the Bantu and you take down either these three and you put them up so that everything is headed towards the center, and boom, you have another hairstyle with Bantu knots. Okay. Another thing that you can also do is if you want to, and it goes back to the manageability. If you take your hair and you do Bantu knots and you decided, like, you know what, I want to do a Bantu knot out, and you open up all your Bantu knots, right? You open up everything and you have this amazing afro, and your hair is looking like woo, and you spend the entire day rocking that hairstyle, and you come home at the end of the day and your hair is out. What I do, right, is whenever I open up my hair, I know some people, when they open up their hair, they want to lift the roots for volume, and that's when everything is open. They want to lift the roots up, and therefore, because they're doing that and they're lifting the roots up, they're going to be getting rid of the parts, the original parts that you had in your hair, right? Because you're lifting the roots and all of your hair is open and you have this big fluffy curly fro. Again, this is the size that I had mine in, so I'm going to have a thicker curl, right? If you do your Bantu smaller, you're going to have smaller definition. Okay, so you find that you have your Bantu out, right, and you spend the entire day with this beautiful afro, and you come home at the end of the day and you're like, I gotta go deal with my hair now, and I don't know what to do, and I don't want to be dealing with this right now. Some of you might just say, forget it, and you go sleep right away on your anything, you don't do anything with it. But I'm here to tell you that when you do that, when you lift your hair, you get rid of the original parts. All you need to do is look for the original strands. They're there because you didn't open up the hair completely. Look for the original strands, find them, and plait them again when you get home at night. So when you plait them again, what are you doing? You're reinforcing the curl. So when you plait your hair back, you had it open, it looked really nice, you plait it back. So when you go to bed, you have your Bantu, your hair is set, and then guess what? Tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is another day to rock a style of Bantu knots, out or in. Okay, so you can do that. I want you to think about that. So don't feel that because you styled your hair for one day and you had this incredible afro, it was looking wonderful, and you come home and it's like, I don't want to deal with my hair. You're not dealing with it. You're telling it what to do. Okay, so again, let me say this again. When you have your hair out, you just look for the original strands, and before bedtime, you grab them, you plait them, and you put them away, and that's all you need to do. And in that way, you have manageability during the week. You have manageability during the month if you choose to, right? So I already told you 2 styles that you can actually rock with the Bantu knot. 3 styles. You can get bangs, right? You could take the 3 of these and put them up towards the center. You have a mohawk, and then of course you could do your entire hair out and have an afro. I've also seen people take out their Bantu knots, right? They take out the actual Bantu and they rock it like this, right? They take out the Bantu, and depending on how thick or how small it is, they have their hair curl out like this. Of course, mine's a little bigger, so you'll get the idea if you have smaller Bantu knots, right? So you just basically, you have the Bantu for 1 week. The following week, you open up the hair itself, right? You pull it open. That's another style, because what I find is that you have a much more cropped, curly style towards the scalp, right? So you can open up the Bantu close to the scalp, and there you have another hairstyle. It's gonna look a little different based on the size of your Bantu. Okay, I've also seen people, they open every part of their hair. They open up everything for the Bantu knot. They open up everything, so you have a big afro, and what they would do, and I think is really, really cute, I think it's really cute, they would open up everything on the hair, right? And while everything is open, they would have these 3 Bantu knots right on the side. So that's another hairstyle you can have with Bantu knots. So again, Bantu knots really, 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 really deserve to be a part of your hair care regimen, because you could do so many things with them. You can do so many things with them. And I'm so sorry that you guys have to see this order, but I hope you're understanding what I'm telling you in terms of hairstyles, in terms of you have manageability. And not only that, like I said, because you're doing your hair in sections, it is much easier for you to style it. It is much easier for you to maneuver it, because again, it's already taken care of. You don't have to fuss and fight your way through your hair, telling it to behave, because you already had it in Bantu knots and everything is already organized. It's already styled. Okay, so let's go over the points again. So the first point was, you can use Bantu knots because it's manageable. It makes your hair much more manageable, okay, because everything is already detangled. The second point is that using Bantu knots give you a lot more versatility. You have so many hairstyles when you do Bantu knots. You have a lot of options when you do Bantu knots, right? And finally, the final point that I have to make this evening is something you already know, right? Bantu knots are a protective style. Why is it a protective style? Because you have your ends tucked away. Whenever you have Bantu knots, your ends are tucked away. So therefore, being the oldest part of your hair, you need to protect your ends. If you don't protect your ends, best believe your hair is not going to grow. Okay? Many people believe that, you know, oh, Rochelle, I've been doing this forever and my hair is still at the same length. But you have to remember that your hair grows on its own. You're right. The key thing that you need to remember to do is, of course, to protect the oldest part of your hair, which is your ends. And that is why Bantu knots are like really nice. Because when you tuck your hair away, when you put your hair away, your hair is protected. Okay, so please bear that in mind when you are, you know, trying to consider what to do with your hair. You can take Bantu knots throughout the entire month. I might try it on one of these days, right? So you could take Bantu knots throughout the entire month and use it as an out. Use it out, meaning open your hair. There's one big one right there. That's a style. But remember that when you open your hair, you still have manageability. You still have flexibility, because your hair is not as crazy as it would be if it were not detangled. So let me know in the chat if you got any value from this video. Let me know what you liked about it. I went over 3 reasons why you can actually, I like bangs, you can actually use Bantu knots as a style, meaning the manageability, the versatility, the protective styles that you're allowed to, you know, get not hair growth, but in essence, what you're getting is hair retention. Okay, so you get retention when you use Bantu knots because it's also a protective style. Also comment in the chat what you actually call those Bantu knots, because again, I'm in the Caribbean, I'm from St. Martin. We don't call it really Bantu knots, we call it different names. So let me know in the chat what it is that you call it. And yeah, that's it, my friends, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again in probably 2 weeks. Let me know what you think down in the chat below. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for you know, having this community where we can come out and we can talk about natural hair and, you know, the things that we need to talk about, and not just the fact that it's negative, the names that we give our hairstyles. I'm glad that came up. But let's start to empower ourselves to use hairstyles that make us feel as if we do have a crown on our head and not goat poo poo. Okay, so have an amazing week on purpose. Thank you so much for joining again. You take care. Don't forget to comment. Ciao.